Welcome back to Bad Attitude C10. Today, guys, I'm going to share something with y'all that's kind of different and is going to make one thing unique on the Bad Attitude C10, and it comes to us from the guys over at K&R Performance Engineering. So back when we first started putting this truck together, it was originally going to have an S480 turbo and a blow-through carburetor. After thinking about it for a while, I chose to go ahead and not do the turbo and go to a centrifugal supercharger, but I had already gotten the launch controller, which is an air launch controller. We were going to use compressed air for DOM pressures over the turbo to control, the wastegates and everything with the boost controller. And so I already had the onboard air system, and I talked to Kevin over at K&R, and we decided we're going to go ahead and use it anyway because I prefer using that style launch controller over a two-step, and we'll get into that in the next video as to why. But one of the things that I did not want to have to hassle with were CO2 bottles. I've ran CO2 for launch controllers in the past, and the bad thing about them is if you get a leak in the system or something like that and your bottle drains and it gets empty on you and you're at a track and you're dependent on that for a launch controller, or even if you're using it for doing dome pressure for your turbo setup, or even a launcher for a parachute, an air shifter, whatever it may be, one of the worst things is if your CO2 bottle is empty and you don't have a backup and you have no means to fill it up and get by for that day or that weekend. So going to onboard air, you're going to spend the money one time, and after that, you're self-contained. Another benefit, which I'll just stress more here in a minute, is that if something were to go wrong with the onboard air, if you had a motor failure, or let's say you had an electrical issue, the other cool thing about it, it does have a Schrader valve, and again, we'll get into more depth on this later. So you can actually fill it up and use it just like an actual air tank, a reservoir. So once you fill it up, as long as there's no other leaks in the circuit, once you get it together, you can utilize that pressure until it's exhausted. So if you're just using it for a launch controller, or like I say, pressurized for your dome, a turbo, or whatever it may be, or just for your air shifter, it's minute amounts of air, and it might get you through the day or the weekend, or at least through each round until you can run back over there. And if you got a compressor, you can just air it right back up and use it as a reservoir. So anyway, let's get to it. I'm going to get over here on the workbench and show y'all the components to the onboard air from K&R Performance Engineering. Alright guys, before I do a breakdown on this, this is the air pump system directly from K&R Performance Engineering. Their website is www.krperformance.com, as seen on the screen here. So if you would like to pause the screen and read about it, here's the information. So alright guys, so y'all can tell this is a little bitty compact unit, but it will be perfect for our application. And so I'm going to go ahead and do some rough measurements here with this tape measure. And I couldn't find my bigger tape measure, so I know y'all might not be able to see these numbers real well, so just take me for my word. But the length or width, however you'd like to say it, as far as the long side, is right at 10.5 inches long. If I didn't have a straight edge handy, but just kind of eyeballing it, it comes out to about 8 inches in height. And the actual depth of it would be right around 6 1/4, but then if you add the heads of the bolts on the pump right here, it comes out to about 6.5 inches wide. Now, I didn't have time to grab a scale, and I forgot all about measuring it, or should I say weighing it on camera, but it weighs in at 9 pounds 2 ounces. So it's a pretty lightweight, cool little unit. Now it does come with a regulator that's preset at 90 psi. They don't recommend going above 120 on it. It has the little quick connect for a nylock hose that you just plumb and push it in. And if you look real close here, I'm going to stand it upright so you can see. This is actually a drain that they have plumbed into the bottom of it with a little petcock, I guess you could say, style drain valve. And then it comes equipped with basically the pump itself, and this is the pressure switch to actually make it to where when you turn it on, it's automated. So it has a pressure gauge, and it does have the weather pack style waterproof connector for the electrical, and it also includes an inline fuse. So all in all, it's a pretty nice, clean, compact little unit. So let's take a look at some of its other features. So as I mentioned earlier, it does have a petcock or a drain valve, and they do recommend that you drain it after each race weekend. On the back there is a little manifold, and it does have a pressure relief valve. And another unique kind of feature of it, you can pull it to test and make sure the spring works, but it also contains a Schrader valve. This Schrader valve will allow you, if there was a failure on the pump or something like I mentioned earlier, you can actually fill it up with air and just use the reservoir as a tank, just as if you were using a CO2 bottle, but this one would be refillable, so you'd be good to go. So in addition to our little unit, we also got a little bag full of goodies from K&R. And guys, there's the thing in here that I can't wait to explain to y'all. But up first, this is the little rubber isolation bushings, you know, to help the vibration of the unit once you mount it to wherever you're going to put it in your car / truck / dragster, whatever you're using it for. In addition to that, I'm kind of excited about this. You also have a quick disconnect and a ball valve that you can mount on the back of your car, truck, or whatever you're putting it on, to where if you need to top off the air in your, slicks, drag radials, whatever it may be, you actually can do it even in the staging lanes without having to go get a tank. You already got it on board with you. They do give you the other half of the weather pack connector to allow you to complete the wiring of your harness. And they even included a nifty little air hose that you can keep with you under your seat, behind your seat, or wherever it may be. That way, if you did need it in the lanes, not only did you have air available, but you have a hose as well. So, guys, the instructions are pretty quite, straightforward and easy to understand, and there's a small wiring diagram, but we'll go over that when we install the unit. However, I did want to touch base and let y'all know that K&R does have an accessory page to where you can get accessories and components for this. They offer gauge adapters and stuff. You can actually buy the 1/4-inch nylon tubing, which I went on ahead and picked up enough of it to do the entire truck. This tubing is it's a push lock, so you just put it in the fitting and push it, and it locks in place, and you're good to go. In addition to that, I did pick up the extra gauge, like I said, to put in the cab of the truck to where I could monitor pressure there. In addition, I picked up one of the little straight unions to where you can splice in and, tie two pieces together. They do have like U's or Y fittings, kind of like this, and I picked up a couple of T fittings just to be safe. So guys, here's one little last look at the system, and thank y'all for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you later.